What are heaven and hell? They are not places, but they are realms in which the laws of the universe don't apply. They are, if you will, alternative realms that exist somehow beyond the universe, in which people can live, for example, eternally. So the normal laws of perishability and mortality are inoperative there. So obviously there have to be such realms of heaven and hell are possible. Second, Christians and other believers also believe that if there's life after death, there has to be some possibility of eternity. God is eternal. He exists outside of space and time. He's offering us eternal life. So eternity means that there has to be the possibility of somehow transcending space and time. And third, Christians and Jews believe in the resurrected body, meaning not only does the soul live on after death, but the body too, but not in its current form. That after death we have new kinds of bodies that are somehow material in some sense, but imperishable. And therefore, matter has to be capable of taking forms radically different from the matter we know, because bodies as we know them break down and irretrievably perish. So matter has to be capable of being completely different from any matter we know. Now, again, if I had said these things 100 years ago, they would have been radically alien to anything that was known in modern physics. They would seem kind of nuts. In Newtonian physics, for example, the idea of going outside of space and time was incomprehensible. Space and time extended infinitely. Time goes forward and backward. Space extends in all directions. You can't really get out of it. If someone were to say, well, space is very vast, but, you know, it comes to an end at this wall. We'd say, well, yeah, but what's on the other side of the wall? More space. But today, all you have to do at Oregon State is sign up for an introductory physics course, and you will learn right away that not only that as a consequence of the so-called Big Bang, not only does the universe have a beginning, but not only does all the matter have a beginning, but space and time also have a beginning. Space and time, in other words, are now understood to be properties of our universe. Which means that beyond our universe, if there is a beyond, no space, no time. Or space and time operate somehow differently in other realms. Scientists now speak about multiple universes. Universes other than our own. And what the one thing we know about multiple universes is that if they exist, they have laws completely different than the laws of our universe. The normal rules of experience don't apply. Scientists today also speak about something called dark matter and dark energy. Concepts that seem kind of cloudy, but actually emerge from very solid data. Scientists look out at the heavens, and you see the galaxies, and the galaxies hold together. But here's an interesting fact. If you add up all the matter in the galaxies, there's not enough gravity for that to happen. And so scientists say there has to be some other kind of matter, dark matter, that is holding the galaxies together. What is dark matter? No one's ever seen it. No one knows what it is. It has properties completely different from any matter we know. Dark energy. The universe is expanding, but it's expanding at an accelerating rate. That's a mystery. Why is it a mystery? It's a mystery because from the Big Bang, things are flying apart. It's like saying you throw a stone, it's going to fly away. But after a while, it's going to slow down. If it goes faster and faster, how's that possible? Some form of energy must be pushing it. Dark energy. Add up dark matter and dark energy, and they make up, by scientific consensus, 95% of all matter and energy in the universe. In other words, all the matter we know, all the energy we know, is less than 5%. And so if somebody now says to the Christian, what are you talking about these resurrected bodies made up of matter of a kind we don't even know, that has properties other than we are familiar with? This would seem like a very intelligent statement 50 or 100 years ago, but today, when the matter we do know is only 5% of all known matter, we should be a little modest about declaring what are the known permanent qualities of matter or energy. So here's my point. Christian concepts like eternity, being outside of space and time, or having the possibility of a resurrected body made up of a different sort of matter, or the concept of having heaven and hell in other realms outside, if you will, or beyond our universe. All these concepts, which once seemed crazy, are now completely within the mainstream of modern physics. My time is limited. I am forced in a way to adopt the motto that King Henry VIII used with one of his wives. He said, "I can't keep you too long." So, I don't want to... I want to say something specific about the Christian view of life after death, and it's a topic I'll return to. Because after all, Christians maintain that there is one case in which life after death has in fact occurred. And that is, of course, in the case of Jesus Christ. He died, he was resurrected. And there's, I will tell you, even among historians today, a lively continuing debate about that. It's rather interesting that serious historians are still debating the resurrection as a fact. Did it happen or did it not happen? And historically, if you construct that debate, you see that there is actually pretty strong empirical evidence for the resurrection. It is known, for example, that Jesus died, that he was crucified. It is known that he was stuck into a tomb with some guards. It's known that there was a stone in front of the tomb. It's known that some disciples showed up at the tomb and claimed that the tomb was empty. It is known that this Jesus was experienced by a whole bunch of people in different places and times to have appeared before them. It is known that the people who claimed to see this became so excited that they began a movement of global conversion that converted half the Roman Empire and ultimately much of the world. These are known facts. The question is, what theory makes sense of these facts? Now, historically there have been different theories. Consider, for example, the idea that the disciples made it all up. They just manufactured the idea. It's sort of kind of a cool idea. It'd be kind of fun to start a church. We get to be head of it. So let's come up with a bunch of cool stuff and some really good, cool stories, and we'll get some gullible people to go along. I like that idea. But here's the problem with that theory. That is, the cool stuff gets started, a lot of people begin to join in, some revenues begin to come down the aisle, but then some rather unpleasant characters known as Roman guards start showing up. It's called the persecutions. Round up these Christians, take them into some dens of lions, put some swords at their throat, and basically say, "Okay guys, the joke's over. Time to admit you made it up, or we're going to feed you to that lion out there." And most interestingly, these Christians, many of them, went to their deaths for this theory, for this belief. So here's my point. It's one thing for radical Muslims to say, you know, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna, in the expectation of eternity, but it's very difficult to go to your death for something you know to be a lie. Interestingly, the early opponents of Jesus, the Romans, the Jews, did not say the disciples made it up. For 200 years, the mainstream of Jewish polemic against Christianity was this: the disciples stole the body. The disciples stole the body. And this is a very interesting claim to me for this reason. First of all, on the face of it, implausible. How can disciples, mainly women, scatter the Roman guards, roll back the stone, steal the body? Implausible. But the deeper question to ask is, why would somebody say that? Why would you allege the disciples stole the body unless you didn't have the body? The Romans, the Jews, did not have Jesus' body. They had to say that because the tomb was in fact empty. So this is only a slight glimpse of the fact that the resurrection, which today we tend to think is kind of faith-based, historians look closely to see how do you account for the historical circumstances around the resurrection. This is a huge debate on a topic of surpassing importance. I just want to say how thrilled I am to be here to introduce this topic. I think at the end of the day, I hope to convince you that there is powerful evidence for life after death, and your life will be so much richer if, in fact, you believe. Thank you very much.
Our second speaker is Dan Barker. Mr. Barker is co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, a national organization of atheists and agnostics working to keep state and church separate. He regularly travels the world lecturing, performing concerts, and participating in debates with theists. He is the author of Godless, How an Evangelical Preacher Became One of America's Leading Atheists, and The Good Atheist, Living a Purpose-Filled Life Without God. Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Justin. And thank you, Dinesh. It's always fun. We meet like this from airports and then we have to say goodbye. We should sit down and just gab sometime. One of these, we're doing something in San Diego, aren't we? Maybe there, okay. This is our 5th debate together and it's always fun. Dinesh is articulate. He's intelligent, he's civil, and he's wrong, but he's a great guy. I used to believe in life after death. I used to preach it. I spent 19 years preaching that there was an afterlife, and I believed it. And today, as an atheist, I'm not opposed to the concept. I don't have a priori dismissal of the supernatural or some materialistic bias that prevents me from being open to the possibility. As Dinesh said through a lot of his talk, which was mainly hand-waving, I have to say, there's a little bit of evidence which we'll talk about. That sure, I mean, Michael Shermer and other atheists and skeptics, we're not closed-minded to the possibility. That would be an amazing thing to know, wouldn't it? If that's a fact, wouldn't that be something incredible? I would like to know if that's true. I used to believe the resurrection story of Jesus, and now I know that Dinesh's comments are really exaggerated. The debate is not as fierce as he's making it seem. I have a whole section in my book, Godless, which pretty much debunks everything he said about the resurrection story and offers a plausible naturalistic hypothesis, 2 of them actually, and the main one within critical scholarship is that legend, that there was an initial event which later exaggerated through legend, and that there wasn't really all that early persecution of the Christians in the 1st century anyway. But so far, I don't think there's enough evidence for life after death. And listening to Dinesh's opening statement almost gave me a near-death experience, I gotta say. I was almost flashing, when are we gonna get to real evidence? The only real evidence that Dinesh offers, and he does offer some, is near-death experiences, which I will get to later and show how exaggerated his claims are about it, and how mistaken he is in his claims about near-death experiences. On Tuesday, I was in the hospital for my 2nd kidney stone operation this month. They failed 2 weeks ago, and so Tuesday I went back in for the general anesthesia, and they succeeded this time, and I obviously didn't die. But it was fascinating. Both times I was in the hospital, they roll me into the operating room, and I'm thinking, you know, I might not wake up from this. I wonder if I'm going to have an out-of-body experience. I'm talking with the anesthesiologist, and you know the scene, and I made that little joke to her about the anesthesiologist who said, I want you to close your eyes and start counting backwards from $1,000. And she laughed, and then blink, about 2.5 hours later, just blink, I was in the recovery room on another floor, just like that. Just a complete blank. If I have a soul that's separate from my conscious mind, what was it doing during that time? Where was it? Where was I as a human being when my brain was basically shut down pretty much? Was the soul just this thing that was kind of floating in the room, drumming its fingers, waiting for me to wake up again? What is a soul? What is this thing that's supposed to survive death? What is it? Is it immaterial? What? Does it weigh something? Does it take up space? It obviously can have a point of view, as the experience from Dinesh's wife. It had a point of view. It was in a physical space, looking with eyeballs from a certain point of view. What is this soul? Well, now most scientists are pretty convinced that there's no such thing as a soul. That's just a synonym